Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to LucidWorks webinar, Preparing for Peak Amidst the Pandemic. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Max Charles, and I work with the European marketing team here at LucidWorks. In today's webcast, our speakers will be diving into what to expect from this year's peak trading period and different strategies retailers can employ to improve the customer experience and maximize revenues. Before we get started, let's go over some housekeeping. Please make sure your volume is up to hear today's presentation. If you have any questions, we'd love to answer them in the Q&A session at the end. So please feel free to enter any questions you've got in the Q&A box on the console. Please also take a look at the resources box for links to learn more about the actual strategies for retail. Lastly, today's presentation will be recorded and the slides and recording will be shared with you after the webinar. Today's presenters are Garrett Schwegler, Program Manager, Digital Commerce, and Peter Curran, General Manager, Digital Commerce. Thank you both for joining us today. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Garrett to get us started.
Thanks, Max, and welcome everybody. I'm Garrett Schwegler, and I'm really excited about today's presentation and discussion on peak trading. The picture that we have here depicts peak as we've come to know it over the last few years. People jostling for position, trying to grab the hottest deals off the shelf. However, this is not really what we're going to be planning for this year, right? And we're all part of the commerce world. So this is more appropriate for today's discussion for preparing for peak. So let's just dive right into it and get the conversation going. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about what to expect for peak trading 2020. We've pulled together a few graphs from the analysts in the market, and we'll discuss that. And then we'll talk about how to edge out the competition and what are the key strategies you want to focus on to make sure that you get ahead and you're prepared and you're at the top of the shopper's mind this year. And then we'll wrap it up with a little bit of Q&A. So let's talk about what to expect for peak. So far, 2020 has been filled with uncertainty and disruption, right? But when it comes to peak for 2020, I don't feel like the question mark's really appropriate as much as it feels like there's all this uncertainty. We feel like when it comes to peak this year, this is more like it. We've experienced a lot of disruption this year. Our plans have been totally shifted and even our personal lives, and some retail verticals have really been shaken. But what this will drive is competition. And despite the bricks and mortars that have closed and even major brands that have faced challenges, the media outlets are saying that the Black Fridays and the peak period is really going to take off this year when it comes to commerce. So let's talk about how we can be prepared for this.
Garrett, what do you think having it really kick off means? I mean, I've been, thinking about, in an era of uncertainty, like you were talking about, the possibility that a business will do all of its trading online this year is absolutely a possibility. If that's the case, how would you estimate the amount of traffic that your site would be taking on?
Yeah, that's a great question, Peter. It comes down to if you've had this, as you can kind of see in this chart here, this really unusual and explosive growth for a lot of our retail markets over the last couple of months, it would almost be reasonable to layer that onto last year's traffic and sales. So in the chart in the middle, if you see the major spike, so that's peak 2019. And then as you go through January, February, March, right, it's essentially flat. And then when the pandemic hit, you see this big launch for some of the retail markets. And so I would plan and make sure that the infrastructure is prepared to support essentially compiling holiday peak from last year and what we've seen as growth for this year. And I think what the next slide will show after this is really what that could be from a step shift perspective.
Yeah, I think in general, it's a good practice to ensure that your e-commerce platform end to end can handle somewhere in the range of 10 times the peak that you had last year, which should in many businesses be around their average day now. Increase the amount of traffic by an order of magnitude. And I think that's the safe bar. But nobody knows. We don't have a crystal ball, but that's my opinion.
Absolutely. And there are probably some costs associated with the testing for that kind of traffic. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be hit with not being able to support the traffic and losing out on all those sales. So it's a perfect investment really to make sure that your infrastructure is lined up to support it. Yeah, so when it comes to this chart, what we really want to convey is we've seen two different stories depending on the market that you're in. So clothing and footwear had, been hit with some challenges in the beginning and are starting to recover. But when you look at the home improvements, the electrical, health and beauty, those have really taken off. And despite those two different stories, what we do want to convey is that there are pressures, competitions, and opportunities essentially arising from each of those experiences. So if your industry hasn't taken off, right, you still have incredible opportunity, and the competition's even tighter. However, if the business has really taken off, you should still really be that much hungrier to beat out the competition and capture those additional sales. So this slide starts to talk about step shifts, and step shifts are the result of events that drive consumers to transition their primary method of shopping from one channel to another. And every year we see this, as the graph is showing, through the peak trading season, as shoppers are converting from going into stores and brick and mortars and transitioning to online. And whether it's the online specials, the convenience, the experience, whatever the reason, shoppers are transitioning to shopping online. And this creates a new baseline for the next peak season, right? So you start to get these shifts in the charts and this growth in business. And what we're seeing now is a dramatic shift from the pandemic, right? Whether stores are closed or people aren't comfortable going to them, we're getting a lot of new shoppers coming to sites who hadn't in the past, and hopefully they're having these great experiences and are now, for the next peak, going to be an online shopper primarily. So this is essentially a chart just showing over the previous years the growth in online sales, how there's a positive trend shifting that from brick and mortar to commerce, and how we really expect the recent shift over the last couple of months to have converted those shoppers who were previously committed to going into stores to go online for peak in 2020.
Yeah, I again would say, like we were talking about a minute ago, the only sane reaction in a period of uncertainty is caution. And I think it's important to expect that as much as we hope it's not the case, that the pandemic becomes worse and stores are closed during the peak shopping period. And so as a result, it could be the case, I again hope it's not the case, but it could be the case that the only way to sell anything is to do it through, online through a site. So, and if that's the case, it's super important to, have the flows for getting people signed up, getting them an account, shipping to them, helping them find the thing that they're looking for, all of those different flows in the funnel optimized.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect segue. Thanks, Peter. So how should we be preparing for the rush and talking about the funnel? This is generally how commerce businesses are thinking of their different strategies throughout the year. And this still makes sense when you're thinking about peak and what you can potentially accomplish in these next couple of months before everything is locked down. So there's customer acquisition at the top of the funnel, making sure you can grab the biggest bucket, cast the widest net, get all those people to your site, the product discovery experience while they're doing their shopping, checkout, extremely critical, and then fulfillment. And so we'll talk about each of these and some of the tactics here on this slide, and then we'll dive in deeper to a handful of these to really show some specific examples of what we can do to edge out the competition. So when it comes to peak trading components at the top of the funnel, we have traffic, and it's really making sure that you have your site tuned up for your SEO, you've optimized your SEM strategies, and we'll talk about that one a little bit more. When it comes to product discovery, the efforts that it takes to tune your search engine, this should really be done throughout the year and definitely ahead of holiday as your catalogs are evolving and the data around the products has been changing. And even as we're getting a lot of new shoppers over these last couple of months, you may see different trends in the search and browse experience that you want to make sure you have tuned ready for peak. When it comes to recommendations, making sure that you have different models and experiences throughout the site. And then, of course, personalization and segmentation, and making sure that you're talking to the customer and showing them that you understand them, and ultimately that you're providing what was previously an in-store experience online. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. As we go further down the funnel, we come to checkout. And here we've started to see over the last couple of years a lot of focus on payment options, right? So there tends to be a struggle with entering credit card information or apprehension about security on the site. And so offering a lot of payment options is critical. And then guest checkout as well, right? Making sure that the shoppers have a quick and easy way to get through the checkout experience without giving all kinds of information and slowing them down and getting in the way ultimately. So you want to make sure you have this optimized, you reduce the friction in the experience, and you get shoppers on their way. And then another really key component, which we've seen a spike in usage of in these last couple of months, is chatbot. And we've generally seen the use of chatbots as a customer service tool, supporting shoppers with the questions of, like, where's the closest store? Where's my order? You know, really just basic customer service stuff where you can potentially leverage machines and not humans to support those customers. And so you can scale with the increase in demand for that service. But now what we're also seeing chatbots do is participate in the product discovery portion of the experience. So as it comes to bringing that in-store experience online, shoppers don't have store associates to speak to or other people in the store where they can get advice, they can ask additional questions about products. And so we're starting to see the chatbot evolve into that space. And it's a really great tool to help shoppers make a confident purchase decision. And then just the last note there is analyzing the disposition. So making sure that you have the right analytics around the shoppers that are using the chatbot, so that maybe over the last couple of months you can take a look at what are the top questions and experiences that shoppers are engaging with, and making sure that that's tuned up for holiday.
I think another thing I'd point out here, Garrett, too, is that many companies where I've done consulting have issues with the way that their analytics are tagged on their site, and many companies sort of excuse errors in their analytics platforms or apologize for them because everybody knows that it's tagged the wrong way, and everybody in the company lives with the issues that are therefore then manifest in the reports. I think now is a really important time to sort that kind of thing out, get the site tagged properly, so that the analytics work more crisply for you, and you can actually make informed decisions based on what you see there. So you're talking about it here in the context of chatbots, but I would expand that point to be sort of site-wide, make sure that and and the way that you would do this is you would have a tag the site up and then do a test where you go through a variety of different flows, which should produce a certain result in the analytics, and you check and test to make sure that it in fact produces those results, and then push that live.
Exactly. Yeah, you'd hate to be spending the time and energy looking into something that's really just an error in the tagging or an issue with the analytics. And, there's enough stress during the peak trading time that, definitely spending a little bit of time up front to make sure that you're buttoned up in that regards is perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll hand it over to Peter, and he'll start to talk about how you can edge out the competition.
Awesome. Thank you, Garrett. Would you mind advancing to the next slide? So one of the things that we talked about was in Garrett's slide a few back there was getting more traffic to the site. And one thing that we have built here at LucidWorks is an SEM product. This product is in beta right now. It's not officially released and for sale yet. And we are looking for companies that want to beta test this with us. But basically what this product does is it looks at the campaigns that you're buying keywords in, and it analyzes those keywords for their meaning and tries to understand what they're looking for, and then looks through a set of alternative words and identifies alternatives that are less expensive per click than the ones that you're buying on, and then buys a big combination of those in order to try to drive the same amount of traffic for less money, or more traffic for the same spend. The thing that's really important about this, and you can advance the build a little bit here, Garrett, the thing that's really important about this is that the head keywords, the expensive keywords that we tend to buy in SEM campaigns, although they are the most expensive because they get the most traffic, they're typically the worst converting paths for traffic to coming into the site. In other words, people who, in this example, search for leggings and click on a website, like Lululemon's, that they have a propensity to purchase, but it's a much lower propensity to purchase than someone who searches on something like what you see in the lower part of this graph, yoga leggings with pockets. That person has identified what they want to use the leggings for and a feature that they want in those leggings. And so, if you can buy on that keyword and that you have yoga leggings with pockets because you kind of know what the search traffic is on your site once people get on site, then you can confidently buy on that keyword and drive much more highly qualified traffic to the site. I think this is a really important strategy because both, potentially increases the amount of traffic, but more importantly than that, will improve your conversion rate on that traffic that you buy, which is obviously two wins in one. Next, please, Garrett.
All right.
Another thing that Garrett alluded to earlier is, tuning the search engine. And at LucidWorks, we come from a search background as the, primary fiduciary for the solar project. We've cut our teeth and built a business and now a platform around search. And there are a variety of different things that you can do to sort out search. The easiest thing or most important thing is to just create a scorecard. So produce a report that shows all of your top search terms, maybe top 200 or top 400, and then distribute a spreadsheet that asks a set of people within your company or outside of your company. You can send it to your mom if you want, and have them search for those words, and then give a score of 1 to 10 or whatever score range you want to come up with on whether they think that's a good quality search result or not. And if they feel the need, give them the opportunity to add a comment about why they think it's good or not good. And then aggregate all of those results together, and then focus your search tuning effort on the ones that have the lowest score. This is a tried and true, a laborious, but tried and true technique. And one of the things I would suggest is that when you look at these search terms that have the lowest score, try to think of them not in terms of that specific term, but think of them as a theme. So if somebody is searching for, in this particular case, long sleeve shirt dress, think a little bit about why this is a problem, and what other kinds of combinations of words might exhibit the same kind of problem. So, for example, would a long sleeve dress shirt also return that fourth shirt dress, or would short sleeve shirt dress do something different? Or, what are the different kinds of combinations of these words that still yield a problem in this case with both recall and ranking? So, try to get the most bang for your buck, and don't tune for a single word, tune for a theme. The second thing I would recommend, which is not on this slide, is that you look at all of the searches, over the last few months, or also possibly the searches for last holiday peak, and see which terms produced 0 results, and try to understand why they produced 0 results, and see if there's something that you can do, like adding a synonym or a keyword somewhere in order to make them not return 0 results. I think it's important. There's a widespread misconception, I think, in e-commerce that you should never show a 0 results page, and that is absolutely false. You want to, if you don't have something, you want to tell the customer honestly that you don't have it, as opposed to showing them irrelevant stuff, because if you show them irrelevant stuff, the consumer loses confidence in the site and believes that something is wrong, and then will waste a lot of time, hunting around for the thing, ultimately getting frustrated. So if you legitimately do have it or have something like it, it's a good idea to use the keyword. Otherwise, let it go to a 0 results page, and then maybe recommend some alternative products on that page. But beyond that, that's a well-known technique for tuning. Also consider looking at all of the searches that got 0 clicks. So what did, what was the term that people searched for where they got results, but they didn't click on anything across a bunch of different people searching for that same thing? And along the same lines, what are the searches for which there were no purchases, there were no conversion events? All of these kinds of reports can be extracted from Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics. And if you need help with something like this, feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to help you. But looking at these sort of null events, whether it's no results, no clicks, or no purchases, is a way to find places where you have an optimization opportunity. Once you do a lot of that optimization, there are a variety of different tools available for measuring the efficacy of your search experience. There is a metric called NDCG, which I would recommend people use to evaluate the quality of ranking or the ordering of the products on the search results page. There are tools that you can use to automate the scorecarding process. So if you don't want to use a spreadsheet, there is a free tool from Open Source Connections called Cupid, which I recommend, and also has some automation features that can make your scorecarding process a little bit easier. Lucidworks also has a tool like this that's built into our platform that you may or may not know about. And if you're a Lucidworks customer and would like to learn more about how to use our testing tools, please reach out to us, and we'd be happy to show you. And then lastly, we at Lucidworks really believe in the power of machine learning and believe that that a lot of manual curation, which is laborious and time-consuming and boring and feels fruitless, a lot of that stuff can be eliminated through well-instrumented machine learning models. And so to the extent that you have the ability to instrument machine learning on your website, it's something that we would certainly recommend, and is a thing that obviously we would be happy to help with. Can you advance the slide, please, Garrett?
Yes, sir. All right, so I can take it over from here. So delivering the InStore experience, really, we're working our way down the commerce funnel, and in parallel to tuning the search engine, you should really be focusing on these additional components of product findability and product discovery. We may not have in-store shopping this holiday season. So these shoppers who recently switched from shopping at brick and mortars to online shopping are going to have really high expectations, and they're also going to be new to the experience. So it's really critical that you capitalize on this new traffic and you provide an experience that helps them find what they're looking for, introduces complementary products, answers questions, and shows that you know them. So one of the first things, and definitely first part of the search experience, comes with type ahead, and you want to be predictive with type ahead. This is your first impression with the shopper, and Lucidworks with Fusion can make this a really personalized and relevant experience based on what other shoppers are searching for, whatever's in the index, and matching on actual products and categories and brands in the index, and making sure that you land on quality and relevant results. So it's really important that you nail type ahead right off the bat and make sure that you can show the customer you understand what they're looking for. Then when it comes to search results with Fusion, at the most basic level, you can boost products based on engagement. So whether it's clicks or add to carts or purchases, you can also boost on words in the query and learn from what this shopper is clicking on and searching for, and then influence future results. So if the shopper is typing in like men's pants and they're showing this affinity to the men's gender, or they're starting to show color affinities when they're filtering products, you can pick up on those signals and influence the rest of the shopping experience with our engine. So it can become a really powerful in-session personalization tool that shows that you're listening and you understand what the shopper's doing, almost as if they're in the store and this would be a store associate picking up on those tones from the customer and making sure that they're recommending future products. So depending on what the shopper is looking for, Fusion can also index and trigger different articles of content. So whether it's buyer's guides, the how-tos, pros and con blogs, whatever the case is, if your brand has different stories they want to tell or different valuable content that can assist in the shopping journey, it's a brilliant thing to introduce in the product discovery experience to make sure that you're providing the customer with those stories and the additional information that they may need to make purchasing decisions. And then when it comes to recommendations, these should learn from other shoppers as well as the current shopper. So Fusion picks up signals throughout the experience, as we've mentioned, to really personalize what it's showing. Recommendations should provide both alternative and supplementary products to shoppers on product detail pages and category pages, really throughout the product discovery experience. And Baymard, who's a company that we refer to often, they do a lot of market analytics around website performance and experiences, says that only 42% of the top 50 e-commerce sites do this. So not only is this a huge value add for the shopping experience, but it's also a huge way to get ahead of the competition and really increase AOV and basket counts. And what about engaging a shopper to help them find what they're looking for in a conversational manner? And I alluded to this before, and we'll talk a little bit more about it, as the chatbot. So without an employee on the other end or a store associate in this in-store experience, chatbots can really help the shopping experience from a product discovery perspective. If the shopper's not finding what they're looking for, this could be a great way to engage and ask specific questions, whether it's about the catalog or certain products, and to have the chatbot engaging with the shopper and helping them along the way. So this can be really powerful.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you.
It's okay.
I'm gonna ask you a question about this slide. I thought you were done, but what's the one thing I hear people say sometimes in e-commerce is, we don't want web content on the site because it's going to distract the consumer from pulling out their credit card and making a purchase. That they're on the sort of happy path to conversion, and then you put an article in front of them about how to use a product or what how to assemble the product or some other piece of information, and then now they're not buying anything. So or they get distracted and wander off. So why do you think content is important, and is that different this holiday than it has been in previous peak seasons?
Yeah, I think it's when it comes to educating the shopper and helping them make a more informed decision for this holiday, reducing the amount of returns is going to be huge, right? So returns are a pain when it comes to commerce in general. And when you have this huge influx of online shopping and not an opportunity to go to a brick and mortar if they're omni-channel to do returns, I feel incredibly important to make sure that you're providing that shopper with as much information to help them. So in the apparel industry, making sure they understand your specific fit, right? Or all the different brands that you sell and how they fit differently. So that can be huge. When it comes to home improvement, if people are trying to understand more about tools or consumer electronics and all the different information about the TVs and things of that nature, making sure that they get the purchase right the first time is incredibly important. So that's where I think the content can play a big role in shopping this season. Perfect. All right. So I'll hand it off to Peter for chatbots.
Yeah, so there was a study that just came out. I think it was on a site industry site I follow called Digital Commerce 360. And they said that I reported a statistic from Salesforce that chatbot sessions for its customers on the Demandware Salesforce Commerce Cloud platform have seen an increase between April and February in use of chatbots that measures at 426%. So many times over more chatbot engagement than they had before, and that I think that particular trend is going to continue, particularly if the pandemic worsens as fall comes. If there is no opportunity to go in store and customer service phone lines are clogged, I think people who are doing all of their shopping online are going to look to chatbots and assistants for the help that they need to complete transactions and to find products. And so LucidWorks, we've built a tool called Smart Answers that is something that we can train either against FAQs or other product information or user session data. And once we do that training, we can support a question and answer flow like the one you see demonstrated on this site. And there are, some basic kinds of use cases that you absolutely want to be able to solve for around, like, what's your return policy and what's the warranty, and, how do I get in touch with customer support, things like that, that are important questions and answers to train your chatbot on. But we also would recommend and can help you train your chatbot against product information so that people can ask, does the such and such pair of shorts run small or large, for example, so that, that they can get these kinds of questions answered. This is, I think, a really important place to inject some personality and some richness to the customer interaction, and that's a thing that our machine learning driven platform will allow you to do. Can you go to the next slide, please?
Yep, perfect. So fulfillment flexibility, this is really at the bottom of the funnel. We've gotten the customer finally to the site. They found what they were looking for, and they've gone through checkout. So fulfillment's really at the end of the road here. And when it comes to closing the deal, you have to meet the shopper where they want to be met. And it's with uncertain times ahead, even regionally, that you need to be prepared to fulfill orders in many different ways. So when you think about past holidays, have your fulfillment times been extended because of bottlenecks at distribution centers? Can you relieve that pressure by brokering orders to store locations, or should you have stores shipping orders? Offering click and collect, curbside pickup, local delivery, a lot of options here to really enrich the experience and making sure that you can provide that last mile of fulfillment for your customers, keep them happy, get them the products that they want quickly, and really just making sure that they have a really great end-to-end experience. So this is just a click and collect example from Next, and it's just how easy can we make this for the shopper? Can we make them comfortable in this time of uncertainty and help them get the products that they're looking for? So I really feel like this is going to be, aside from the returns experience and a chatbot and that in-store shopping experience, is making sure that you have a quick and easy and flexible way to help the shoppers get the products they're looking for. All right, so I think that's the last one, and I can hand it over to Max.
Great, thanks, Garrett. As we near the end of the webinar, thanks to everyone who submitted questions already. Before we get started with the Q&A, if you're interested to learn more about the topics covered, you can check out these links to additional resources to help you plan for peak and also learn more about post-COVID retail strategies. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can send us a message at lucidworks.com contact. So to the Q&A. Thanks to everyone who submitted questions. First up, we have one for you, Peter. So it's interesting seeing the different kinds of search tuning exercises. Is search tuning still a thing with machine learning and AI search? Over to you, Peter.
People ask this question a lot, Max. Does machine learning mean that I don't have to mess with search ever again? And I think the answer to that is both yes and no. I think a lot of the really aggravating, annoying, basic things that legacy search platforms can't seem to understand, like that example of long sleeve dress shirt or shirt dress that we saw. It's annoying that you can't handle that. I think a lot of those kinds of problems do go away. Machine learning is a really, really broad and deep field. So just because a software vendor says they have machine learning based search doesn't mean they can solve these basic annoying problems. But in general, machine learning as this broad capability instrumented correctly should be able to sort those problems out. But what that then means is that your efforts are turned more towards the tail of queries that in combination add up to as much as 60 or 70% of your overall search traffic. And then that's the place where refining models and continuing to build them out becomes really interesting. So, for example, what do you do when someone searches for a collection name that is tied to your largest competitor and not to you? What do you do when people are searching for a combination of words like collections and finishes and colors and styles and types, and they get several of those adjectives right, but one of the nouns or adjectives represents something that you don't have? What do you do in that case? Which adjective do you lean on in order to promote them the right kinds of products? Things like those kinds of problems, I think, are the place where we need to use business user intelligence to improve the models for machine learning to react appropriately. So I think the basic job of manually tuning your way out of a particular problem on this keyword or that keyword should go away in the next few years if it hasn't already gone away for you. And then now the job of the business user is about tuning the model that drives the machine learning behavior for the search experience.
Great, thanks, Peter. Yes, I think it's a question that lots of retailers are asking. So thank you for that. Also got a question for you, Garrett. When it comes to establishing priorities ahead of this year's peak trading, what would you recommend?
Yeah, thanks, Max. So I think I'll answer this question two ways. So one is they're all important, but I think really the way that you want to take a look at this from a macro level is let's establish some strike teams at different areas in that commerce funnel and in the different areas of the site to do some research, find the analytics, and bring some low-hanging fruit to the table. If we're still scratching around for ideas and need to improve the site, and we haven't established what those priorities are and are working on them, I would definitely recommend getting some strike teams into these different focus areas, bring some low-hanging fruit to the table, something that's a big win, relatively easy and lightweight, and isn't going to take a lot of time because we're really in crunch mode right now. And then to I guess really directly answer your question is product discovery, search, navigation, recommendations. This can really be the most polarizing experience, right? So it can be as quick as we, search for a long sleeve shirt dress, didn't get relevant results, right? And boom, we're on to the next competitor. It's the competition it's going to be really high this year. It's not people driving from one store to the next. It's clicking another window in the browser and going somewhere else. It's very, very easy. So if you're delivering that polarizing experience in product discovery and not showing the customers that you have what they're looking for, that to me is really the most critical and the biggest one to get nailed down. Once they get it in their cart, right, they're that much closer. So if you're going to stumble a little bit through checkout and fulfillment, I think that's okay. And that's really making sure that they can find what they're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. If they can't find it to start with, then they're never going to get it into their baskets. So a good summary, thank you. So that about rounds it up for today. Thank you both, Peter and Garrett, very much for presenting today. All of the content from today's presentation will be emailed to everyone after the webinar. And also, please feel free to share it onwards with your colleagues. So if you'd like to get in touch, then you can reach us at lucidworks.com contact. So thank you again for joining and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.